Thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar, How to Choose a Digital Credentialing Solution That Meets the Needs of Your Candidates. My name is Cody, I'm from Accredible, and I'll be your host for today. If you're not familiar with Accredible, we are the world's leading digital certificate and digital badging software. Over 1,600 leading organizations like Google, Slack, Sage, S&P Global, Skillsoft, and more trust us to issue their digital badges and certificates, and we issue millions of credentials each month. If you have any questions, please post them in a Q&A window, which is accessible in the panel on the side or bottom of your screen. I'll be monitoring those as we go, and if I don't get to one of your questions right away, don't worry. We'll take some time near the end of this webinar to answer as many of your questions as possible. Please note that we are recording this webinar and we'll send the recording out to you after the webinar is over. Let's dive in. Digital credentials are in demand, and more organizations are looking to offer digital credentials to ensure that they remain competitive in their space. Digital credentials help organizations looking to undergo digital transformation and bring their credentials into the 21st century. Finding the right solution is important. Of course, it ensures scalability, cost efficiency, time savings, and performance for your organization while meeting the demands of your candidates. In this webinar, we'll explore the current demands that candidates have for digital credentials, how to identify must-have and nice-to-have features of a digital credentialing platform for your organization, and how to assess, score, and build a short list of suitable solutions to present to stakeholders. Let's begin with a brief introduction to digital credentials. Digital credentials are the modern equivalent of paper-based certificates, such as diplomas, degrees, certifications, membership badges, and awards for the online world. And digital credentials by nature are simple to award, manage, and verify. Digital credentials are used to engage learners and enhance the learning experience through incentivizing awards that are used to illustrate growth. And with these credentials, recipients can, by nature, add them to resumes and LinkedIn profiles. They promote sharing. They can also share or add their digital credentials to email signatures to show competency or affiliation with a professional organization, or add those credentials to digital wallet cards on their smartphone to present at job sites as eligibility to work. For the recipient, their digital credential provides more detail on the depth of their gained knowledge or demonstrable skills through contextual metadata that's included on a dedicated credential page and embedded into a digital badge image. And this provides a better understanding of their abilities to their manager during performance reviews or to third parties like recruiting agencies when they're looking to enter a new career. Their digital credential is going to be always available, and it removes any concern around the credential being misplaced or damaged or needing to be replaced, which is always costly for a physical certificate. For you as the issuer, digital credentials provide powerful support to marketing efforts. They help to drive revenue through referrals. They encourage program growth, and they drastically reduce the time spent issuing and managing certificates through automation and integration with current platforms. And in most use cases, they completely eliminate the costs of printing, packaging, and posting physical certificates to candidates. So we know the credential technology is beneficial to both organizations and their recipients. Now let's start talking about evaluating software. One of the first questions that always comes up internally is whether your organization should build their own software or go for a dedicated solution like Credible. And there are a few things to keep in mind during a build versus buy evaluation. The first is building from scratch is generally more expensive as it's going to require not only initial development costs, but ongoing budget to maintain security, especially around handling user data, accessibility, accommodating future integrations. The organization may have to, let's say, move developers from other projects, hire additional developers internally, or you know, spend additional to hire freelancers or work with an agency. And there are also feature sets to consider. Without dedicating consistent time and planning to create a quality solution, the organization may end up with key feature requirements that they never designed for, or could end up building features that they thought would be useful, but never get used. And finally, organizations have to be mindful of scalability. Are you going to have the time or budget to make adjustments to the software if you experience sudden program growth? Can you scale vertically and horizontally? And if hearing all of this has you on the fence still in your own build versus buy debate, I'd like to repeat myself a little bit from earlier and tell you that Google is a customer. So before Google came on board, they had their own build versus buy debate. And they saw it would be more valuable to go with vendor experts than to plan, hire for, build, test, release, support, upgrade, an in-house tool. So do you want to be like Google? I'll leave that up to you. And with that in mind, let's move on to how you can identify must-have versus nice-to-have features. So a comprehensive evaluation of available solutions begins by identifying what the organization and prospective candidates require from their digital credentials. So let's explore some common credentialing questions and pain points that organizations can solve through digital credentials. First question. Organizations looking to issue digital credentials often aren't sure whether it's better to offer digital badges or certificates. And of course, certificates follow the traditional format like a diploma. They're instantly recognizable. And sometimes digital badges are misunderstood in terms of value. Sometimes they are misutilized and companies just turn them into a good job sticker. So essentially what you want to understand is whether you should be issuing badges or certificates for your learners. Organizations issuing digital credentials benefit from, in the most part, the freedom of a format agnostic platform that allows them to issue digital badges, certificates, or both together to their candidates. With the ability to use both formats of digital credentials, they can build progressive outcomes for their learners. So the course or module will have digital badges for completion of the smaller pieces and then a final digital certificate to represent the entire pathway. Or you might issue both a digital badge and a digital certificate for each award, which provides the recipients with an easy to embed badge and a more formal looking digital certificate to present to a third party. The second question is on authenticity. Physical and PDF credentials both have a low barrier to fraud. Physical credentials can be scanned, edited with software like Photoshop. PDFs can also be edited in Photoshop or even just Mac Preview. And that can create all sorts of issues where a candidate might spoof an expiration date on a credential and extend it without your authorization. Or maybe they falsified a credential itself. And credential fraud is often higher than organizations realize. About 1 in 3 people include some kind of fraudulent license or credential mistruth in job applications and resumes. And although the candidate is most at risk, an organization's reputation can also easily be tarnished as the result of credential fraud. And that, of course, leads to a ripple effect for the recipients where their peers, prospective employers, and others are going to disregard their credentials if they come from that affected issuer. So how then do you solve the authenticity problem? Organizations need protection for their credentials against fraud, something that's going to be more secure than paper and PDFs. Any enterprise-ready digital credential platform is going to offer you the equivalent of bank-level protection on credentials by default, and the option of blockchain secured credentials to provide full peace of mind. Bank-level protection describes the level of data protection maintained by a platform that's on the same level as a financial service provider or a national level bank. And then blockchain credentials are credentials that are written to the blockchain on creation, and they provide the highest level of protection against fraudulent amendments. It's effectively impossible to hack a blockchain credential. Next up is design. You should care about initial designs for your credentials as well as ongoing and future requirements. So physical and PDF certificates are difficult to pull back and start editing once they've been issued, and that can create additional costs when a design needs to be amended or updated. So physical credentials would in that case need to be updated and printed and packaged and reposted to the candidate, which requires additional spend. And while PDFs are easier to update, they're difficult, if not impossible, to update in bulk. So that, of course, then takes your admins away from performing their duties, and it creates additional time commitments. Digital credential platforms then offer dedicated design tools and support for bulk edits that can make it easy to update live credential designs without needing to pay for a graphic designer or create additional administrative responsibilities. And those design tools are also going to make it easy to add or remove or edit attributes like a stakeholder name, signature across all of your live credentials. Imagine if you change your logo, you only need to change that on the design, and that gets applied to, let's say, the 10,000 credentials that you've already sent out. Bulk edits also allow already set attributes to be updated across thousands of credentials in one go. So if you're in that use case, you have to update your brand logo, you need to rebrand entirely, or you need to respond to an acquisition, live design updates can save you hundreds or even thousands of hours of work. Traditional credentials, bluntly, do little or nothing for you and your recipients after delivery, as they lack ease of shareability. Even if candidates take a picture of their credential to share on social media, there's no direct path for a third party to learn more about the credential, the issuer, or their programs, or the content that somebody has learned. That drastically reduces engagement, and it makes it difficult to gain an understanding of or track referrals. A key benefit of digital credentials is the powerful marketing support that issuers gain through shares and embeds. And once a recipient receives a credential, they're encouraged to celebrate their achievement by sharing it on social networks and adding it to their professional profiles. The increased visibility of their award encourages their peers within their social network to click on the certificate, go to a dedicated credential page, learn more information about the award and the knowledge and the skills gained. And with links also provided to the issuer's website, they can research other available programs and credentials, which increases the potential of that third party signing up for the courses themselves. All right, this one is one of my favorites, verification. Some organizations have sunk the cost of verification for physical and PDF credentials into a full-time administrative position, or they let it eat away at employees otherwise full-time for that task, right? And that doesn't just create inefficiencies that can hold up let's say, a background check for one of their recipients. It also poses a larger problem in regards to longevity. If for any reason your department or organization was to close, the recipient has lost the ability to have their credentials verified. Just think about all of the universities that have gone under recently that have students who need to have transcripts verified. It's the same concept. Digital credentials, or I should say enterprise ready digital credentials. Not all self-proclaimed solutions do this. Provide verification from the dedicated credential page with a simple button click that takes seconds. And that speeds up the review process for job seekers. It benefits professionals that have to show valid credentials as a proof of eligibility to work, for example, in a medical setting or on a construction site. And it also provides guaranteed longevity for a recipient's digital credentials. Even if the issuing organization was to close, they can still access, view, and verify the legitimacy of their digital credentials. All right, this question is similar to the design one. Control over a traditional or a PDF credential is lost once the credential is in their hands of the recipients. And that generates additional costs when the credential requires a typo correction or a name change, and it costs real money. We've worked with companies that have lost tens of thousands on these issues each year, or even if it's just $1,000, it's $1,000 you shouldn't need to be spending. Enterprise digital credential platforms can instead provide automated typo correction for extremely minor edits. And that, of course, greatly speeds up the process for the recipients that need to change their credentials and have them corrected. It's going to save on time and cost for the credentialing department as well, right? No reprinting required. And for name changes that are more than a simple 1 or 2 character change, the process is also fairly simple, in my opinion. It's just an approve or disapprove exercise that somebody can action through the organization's credentialing dashboard. So in no way is there any need to reproduce the credential or have the recipient wait for a new one to arrive in the mail. All changes are going to be on the live credential in seconds without any cost for the organization. All right, another one of my favorites here is tracking. So physical and PDF certificates are impossible to track once they've been issued to the recipient. We call them ghost credentials, right? The issuer isn't able to view where or if the recipient has shared their certificate, and they aren't able to track any referrals that may have come about by the recipient talking about or sharing their credential with peers. Instead, digital credential platforms provide analytics dashboards that allow you to track the reach and visibility of your issued digital credentials. So you as the issuer can track how many recipients have viewed a credential, how credentials are being engaged with, how share and referral rates are going for individual credentials. And that information can be used to adjust your strategies to encourage engagement with certain social media platforms or reward credential influencers that are generating referrals, maybe enable issuers to offset the costs of paid marketing efforts. I'm a bit of a process nerd, so this one also hits home for me. Many organizations will already have an LMS, LXP, AMS testing platform or some other service that they're using to manage learners or members or candidates. And credentialing departments need to spend time then exporting candidate details in order to issue credentials or post physical certificates, which often leaves a delay between the recipient meeting the goal criteria and then receiving their credential. And although some platforms offer the ability to automatically issue PDF certificates, the recipient is generally, in those cases, very unlikely to go on to share their achievement compared to digital credentials. So it's generally not fast, efficient, or cheap. A quality digital credentialing solution provides the option to integrate the platform into existing tech stacks. And that automates the process of issuing digital credentials. And as credentials are sent by email or even better, made live and available within the learning platform that the student's already using, they're received in seconds or at most minutes of the candidate meeting the target goal criteria. So in addition, you as the issuer can customize the credential delivery email to provide instructions on using credentials and include action-oriented calls that motivate the recipient to share their credential on certain social networks or take certain actions. Now, retaining and retraining your learners. Physical credentials and PDFs limit the frequency of communication between issuers and candidates. It makes it difficult to retain recipients after they've completed a program and received a credential because there's a limited space to include information on the credential itself for recommended next steps. And the issue with expiration dates impacts the influence you have to encourage alumni to return and renew membership, renew learning, reskill, recertify. Digital credentials provide a number of ways to engage with the recipients even after they've received their credentials. So first off, digital credentials remain in control of you, the issuer. You can set expiration dates on the credential itself and use reminder emails that are sent out once the credential is nearing expiration. And again, once the credential is expired. And the credential itself is going to be updated with a clearly visible banner stating that it has expired and can no longer be verified. This increased visibility of expiration serves to motivate the recipient to reskill, to keep their knowledge up to date, or renew their membership. And additionally, the use of learning pathways, we call them collections at Accredible, also provides the candidate with clear guidance on the next recommended steps, whether that's the next credential within a collection or a new program of increased complexity, and details for what credentials have been earned within a collection can be viewed from the dedicated credential page, and links to the next credential within a learning pathway or next recommended program can be included in the credential delivery email. All right, we hear about branding quite a bit, namely how awful it is to feel like your credentials are a guest in someone else's home. Traditional credentials and PDF credentials can be designed to align with the issuer's brand guidelines, but that's often where branding control ends, right? The platform that you're using to issue certificates might and probably doesn't provide control over the credential appearance, the credential page, the email appearance, or its contents. A good digital credentialing solution provides branding and white labeling control options for organizations. This enables you as the issuer to control the appearance throughout the credentialing experience, from the delivery email and the dedicated page to the URL where the credential is hosted. And you as the issuer can create an environment that looks and feels just like an extension of your own website. Not only does that help to establish trust, but it keeps your brand in the mind of recipients, so they're more likely to return to you and enroll for additional credentials. So after considering the common questions and pain points of credentialing for issuers and candidates and how digital credentials solve these, it's time to shortlist platforms by assessing and scoring options. This process will help to justify the final decision to stakeholders and get buy-in when it comes time to make a purchase. So in this section of the webinar, we're going to go through 7 key areas to review when comparing digital credential platforms and some of the things to know or look out for. When it comes to evaluating these areas, we do recommend creating a list or spreadsheet to record a score between 1 and 5 of how well the platform under review meets the requirements of each key area. Hopefully, the first part of this webinar helped to identify and establish what key features you and your learners are going to need in a quality solution. It's not always easy to identify the full feature set of a platform, and doing so may require reviewing materials like checklists, pricing lists, and one-pagers. So you want to sort the advertised features into buckets of essential, desirable, and unnecessary, and then score the platform feature set against how well they meet the organization's needs. And don't forget to take into account future needs like scalability, integrations, or features that are going to be useful for the future that are like chargeable add-ons or only included in higher pricing tiers. And also how easy it is to add on the necessary feature in the future. Some companies, for whatever reason, offer barriers with their upgrades. We at Accredible, of course, offer all of the previously mentioned features, but we also ensure that our partners or customers have freedom over which features they need versus paying for features they're not going to use, right? For example, if you want white labeling, but you're issuing credentials at a low volume, you have the freedom to add white labeling to a low volume plan without committing to a high volume package. We make it so that you buy what you need, which you should keep in mind when looking at feature sets. And then a quality solution isn't going to leave you to sink or swim in implementation. It's going to ensure that you have the necessary guidance to successfully launch with your digital credentials. So you want to identify and score the level of onboarding support available. Check what the platform offers in terms of support and help documentation, research current or previous customer reviews for mention of onboarding processes, and talk to the organization. At Accredible, we understand implementation is often a stressful time. And that's why we created a comprehensive or nearly comprehensive searchable knowledge base. And we also have dedicated customer support that's going to walk you through getting started, integrating, and all the elements of a successful launch. And support doesn't end at implementation, right? It should be there for you during the lifetime of contract. So, digital credentials are going to be more than just a replacement for your traditional credentials. They should fuel program growth for you. So to effectively figure out what support's available, score that support, look at customer testimonials and reviews that are going to provide information, and research how to connect with support departments from available information on the product's marketing website. If it seems difficult to search for a query or connect with a person or raise a ticket, it's probably an indication of how you're going to have a support query answered in the future when your program needs it. Here at Accredible, we are very proud of the responsive support and the customer success departments that we have. They're always available to give customers guidance, answers, suggested actions to take to achieve success. And issuers that choose our growth focus plans have access to dedicated account managers who serve as a credentialing expert and also an extended member of your own team, right? They're going to regularly review the progress of your digital credentials and provide feedback on what areas can be improved to help boost demand, grow your programs, boost awareness. We also have guides and webinars that we've created that'll show you how to increase engagement with credentials on social, use it to support marketing efforts, boost enrollment, and create your own supporting materials to guide recipients on using the new credentials. Ease of use is best assessed with a trial or demo account that the assessor is going to be able to get hands-on with, right? They need to try the platform for themselves. And that can be a good way to check how intuitive a platform is and what level of training is going to be required for staff once the platform is implemented. And although screenshots can provide some guidance on navigation, they don't give you insight into accessibility, control on settings, or how engaging the interface is going to be. So, of course, we do offer a free trial that enables an organization to issue credentials up to 20 unique recipients, and that gives you the ability to experience it for yourselves, get hands-on, look at the credential design tools, assess what level of branding, white labeling, other features that you feel like you're going to require when you launch a full program. And then transparency from users is an excellent way to assess the suitability of a platform, especially from organizations in the same industry or of a similar size to you. Reviews, customer case studies, testimonials can provide that insight into how current and previous users find the platform. Although I should say, if you're visiting a third-party review site, make sure to be aware of potential fake or paid reviews. They're getting more rampant. It's also important to consider a platform's market presence. So anytime a service is growing in demand, newcomers pop up and disappear just as fast as they arrived. So avoid getting caught out and potentially wasting time in your evaluation. Take care to assess solutions that have both reputation and the longevity behind them. We do receive regular positive reviews across third-party review sites like G2 and Capterra, and we're proud of the scores we achieve. You'll notice we don't have perfect fives on the review sites listed here, and that's actually a hallmark that our reviews are true and can be trusted. Our users are genuinely thrilled with the ease of usability, level of support, and ease of setup in our solution. If somebody has a perfect 5, chances are they're doing something nefarious to get themselves there. No piece of software is a perfect 5. So we are very proud of our 4.8 and our 4.5. We also have a number of customer case studies available for you to review on our marketing site that showcases success of real credentialing partners and what they've managed to achieve with Credible. Vendor trajectory is an important aspect to assess as it takes into consideration how well the platform meets both the current needs of the organization and how well the platform is going to meet the needs of the organization in the future. You don't want to commit to a contract with a platform that fails to meet needs for scalability or promises enterprise functionality but doesn't deliver it when the time comes. Similarly, you don't want to commit to a platform that's hyper-focused on one area of success, and in doing so prevents you from achieving success in other areas of the credentialing experience. For example, they may be great at meeting the needs of internal training, where credentials remain private, but that negatively impacts or could negatively impact the ease of shareability down the line. We are, in reference to that, proud to serve organizations of all sizes, from small startups to global enterprises across a variety of verticals. And we serve over 1,600 organizations that include Google and Slack and Sage and S&P Global and Skillsoft and more, where we deliver millions of credentials each month. We understand the importance of program growth, of offsetting marketing costs, of engaging recipients and encouraging renewals, and we will help you to define and reach success with digital credentials wherever your focus may be. Finally, it's time to consider budget. And although budget's an important part of the review process, scoring platforms based on budget alone, it often leads to missing out on the best option for you that offers what you need. So don't be fooled into going for an option that looks cheaper, but costs more in the long run when you talk about adding chargeable extras, missing out on program growth opportunities, or having to change providers. It's important to also consider whether charges are based on a per credential or per recipient model, what the cost of implementation is going to be, how long training might take, if the cost is subscription based and how that's paid, any exit fees for breaking a contract, and of course, additional features that you're going to require down the line. At Accredible, we price on a per unique recipient model, which we believe provides greater freedom and flexibility for how you deliver credentials. So you could choose to charge candidates per module, per course, even per credential, and you're only going to pay a single credit for the unique recipient, no matter how many credentials that recipient earns within a contract period. Additionally, with optional add-on features and flexible pricing tiers, our credentialing experts can help you identify your needs as an issuer, so you don't have to pay for features you don't use or have access to the features you need from implementation to ensure you're ready to scale. All right, so to summarize, a structured approach to assessing a digital credential solution is to first establish your organization's and candidates' credentialing needs by identifying the pain points you want to solve. Then assess and score platforms for sustainability. And finally, present the findings to your stakeholders for review. And this process will ensure the chosen solution has been effectively reviewed for how well it meets the initial and ongoing requirements and make it easier to get buy-in from decision makers. All right, now we'll open things up to your questions. If you have a question you haven't asked, please post it in the Q&A window. I'll try to get to as many of your questions as we can. I realize we're over time here, and I apologize in advance if we're paraphrasing any of your questions. All right, so the first question that I have is from Joe, and more of a statement. We need more info on budget. Every organization's different. I can't say what your budget should be or how that relates to your program without seeing the details. One of our experts can help with that, obviously, but if you want to keep doing research yourself, we have a internal sign-off and planning guide that I think would be a really good resource for that. If you want more information or if you want more detailed info, Joe, please let me know and I'll get you hooked up with somebody to talk to you about that. Okay, the next question here is from an anonymous user. So kind of a nebulous question too. How do we know what features our learners want? And I'm not your community manager. I'm not in your organization. I don't even know what industry you're in because you're anonymous here. But you can poll them or talk to them. Talking to them is going to give you more information than you could possibly imagine. I think my favorite example is Wyatt Morris from McGraw-Hill was opposed to digital credentials for a while. And it was only after he had a conversation with a teacher that worked for a pretty remote school in Texas that he turned his idea around. And he had that conversation. The teacher was going in a different direction because in the teacher's words, I need to provide my students advantages. I need to make sure that they get to the top of the pile when they put their resume in. And I'm probably butchering that quote, but the message is still the same. He needed that for his end recipients. The best thing you can do is talk to people. We have had 0 instances where people have done that and found their learners do not want credentials. So just have a conversation. All right. The rest of the questions here are outside the scope of the webinar. So if you do have a question that we haven't gotten to, someone will reach out to you after the webinar is over. And if you've asked about us helping with an evaluation, please make sure you send me your email and I'll make sure we get back to you. All right, thank you everyone for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of digital credentials, you can join us in future webinars or head to our website, accredible.com, and download some of our existing resources. Remember, you can also get in touch with our experts at any time from our website, or you can sign up for a trial account of our software, and that trial is going to give you everything you need to test out Accredible. We've helped hundreds of organizations like Google, Slack, Sailor Academy, Skillsoft find their way to the best digital credentialing solution for them. So I'm confident we can help you. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.